You know what is funny about life? We spend years in school learning complex formulas, but nobody teaches us the simple rules that actually decide whether life becomes peaceful or painful. Stay with me till the end, because the last two rules are the ones most people ignore, and that's exactly why their life never truly changes. Today, many of us are confused. We are more educated than ever, yet more anxious than ever. We have more options, but less clarity, more connections, but deeper loneliness. Some of you are graduating, some of you are starting a new chapter, and some of you are silently asking life, I'm doing everything right, so why does it still feel empty? I've been there, and through observing life, people, relationships, and my own mistakes, I realized something powerful. Life doesn't change because time passes. Life changes when rules change. So today, I want to share 7 simple but life-altering rules. They are not theories, they are truths. And if you walk with me through all 7, you will not just feel inspired, you will feel transformed. Most of our suffering in life does not come from what happens to us. It comes from our constant urge to control what was never meant to be controlled. When we are young, we are taught a very subtle message. If you work hard enough, plan smart enough, think enough, you can control life. And so we try. We try to control outcomes, people, timelines, relationships, even emotions. We start believing that if things don't go according to our plan, something has gone wrong. But life has a gentle way of humbling us. You prepare sincerely, yet the result surprises you. You give your best to someone, yet they don't respond the way you expected. You plan a straight road and life gives you a curve. And that's when frustration enters. I once heard a beautiful thought. Life is like holding water in your hands. If you hold it gently, it stays. If you clench your fist tightly, it slips through your fingers. The more desperate we are to control life, the more anxious we become. Because control is rooted in fear. Fear of uncertainty, fear of loss, fear of being hurt, fear of failing. We don't want to accept this, but deep inside, control is often our way of saying, I don't trust life yet. And that lack of trust keeps the mind restless. Think about it honestly. How many times have you replayed a situation in your head, wishing it had gone differently? How many nights have you lost sleep, trying to predict a future that hasn't even arrived? How many times have you tried to fix people instead of accepting them? We don't realize it, but this constant mental gripping drains our emotional energy. Life does not need micromanagement. It needs participation. There is a big difference. Participation means you show up fully, give your best, stay sincere, stay disciplined, but you release the obsession with how things must turn out. Control says, it has to happen my way. Participation says, I will do my part and allow life to do its work. This shift alone can bring immense peace. I've seen people who did everything right yet didn't get what they wanted. And I've seen people who faced failure but grew wiser, kinder, and stronger because of it. So what actually matters more? Getting everything you want or becoming someone who can handle whatever comes? Control focuses on outcome. Growth focuses on character. When life delays something, it is not always a denial. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is preparation. But we can only see that when we loosen our grip. Letting go does not mean giving up. Letting go means trusting that life's intelligence is bigger than your limited vision. A child holds a parent's finger not because the child knows the road, but because the child trusts the one who does. In the same way, when you walk with trust, even uncertainty feels less threatening. You stop fighting reality. You stop resisting what is, and suddenly your mind becomes lighter. This is where peace begins, not when everything becomes perfect, But when you stop demanding perfection from life, you still work hard, you still dream, you still plan, but now your happiness is not held hostage by outcomes. And when control dissolves, something beautiful takes its place. Acceptance. Acceptance doesn't weaken you, it strengthens you. Because now, instead of wasting energy on why did this happen to me, you invest energy into what is this teaching me. Life flows better when you flow with it. And once you truly understand this, once you feel this, you realize why the next lesson becomes so important. Because when you stop trying to control the outside world, you finally begin to understand the power of the world within. When you stop trying to control everything outside, something subtle begins to happen inside you. You start noticing your thoughts, you start noticing your reactions, you start noticing the voice in your head that speaks to you long before the world ever does. And that is when a powerful realization dawns on you. Life is not just happening to you, life is responding from you. Most people wake up every day believing the world decides their mood. If people are nice, I'll be happy. If things go well, I'll feel peaceful. If I succeed, I'll feel confident. But this way of living makes you emotionally dependent on circumstances. I've met people who live in abundance but carry scarcity in their hearts. And I've met people with very little who radiate calm and gratitude. So what is the difference? The difference is not the outer situation. The difference is the inner state. Your mind is not a mirror, it is a lens, and whatever lens you look through, fear, gratitude, insecurity, awareness, that is the world you experience. Think about this for a moment. Two people can go through the same event, one becomes bitter, the other becomes better, same situation, different inner world. We often underestimate how powerful our inner dialogue is. The way you speak to yourself silently becomes the way you experience life loudly. If inside you there is constant criticism, outside everything feels insufficient. If inside you there is comparison, outside life feels unfair. If inside you there is gratitude, outside even challenges feel meaningful. Life listens very carefully to your inner conversations. That's why some people keep saying, why does this always happen to me? And life politely responds, because this is the story you keep telling yourself. This is not about blaming yourself. This is about becoming aware. Awareness is not judgment. Awareness is clarity. When you become aware of your thoughts, you regain choice. You realize, I don't have to believe every thought that passes through my mind. Most thoughts are not facts, they are habits, and habits can be changed. Your outer world may not immediately change when your inner world changes, but your experience of it does, and that changes everything. A calm mind can sit in chaos without collapsing. An anxious mind can feel disturbed even in comfort. So the real work of life is inner work. We polish our resumes, we upgrade our skills, we work on our bodies, but we rarely work on our inner patterns. And then we wonder why success feels empty. Inner growth is silent, but its impact is loud. When your inner world is disciplined, your reactions become graceful. When your inner world is cluttered, even small issues feel overwhelming. This is why spirituality is not about escaping life. It is about engaging with life consciously. You don't meditate to run away from reality. You meditate to face reality with strength. Once you understand this, you stop begging life to be easy. Instead, you ask for strength to handle life wisely. And something beautiful happens. You stop expecting people to fill your emptiness. You stop demanding situations to fix your mood. You stop outsourcing your peace. You realize peace is an inside job. This doesn't mean emotions disappear. You will still feel pain. You will still feel disappointment. But now, emotions visit. They don't occupy. You observe them instead of becoming them. And that observation gives you power. Now here is the part most people miss. Your inner world is deeply influenced by your environment. by what you listen to, by who you spend time with, by the energy you allow around you, which is why the next lesson becomes unavoidable. Because even a strong inner world can slowly weaken if surrounded by the wrong influences. So now let us move forward, because the next truth will make you rethink the people you keep close and the life you are unconsciously building through them. When you begin to understand the power of your inner world, you naturally start paying attention to what and who shapes it every single day. And this is where many people unknowingly sabotage their own growth. We like to believe we are independent thinkers, but the truth is, human beings are deeply influenced creatures. We absorb moods, we absorb attitudes, we absorb beliefs without realizing it. That's why you can walk into a room and immediately feel its energy. No one says anything, yet something is felt. The same happens with people. You may tell yourself, I'm strong, I won't be affected, but influence doesn't need permission. It works quietly. Spend time with people who constantly complain, and soon complaining feels normal. Spend time with people who gossip, and negativity becomes entertainment. Spend time with people who fear failure, and your own courage begins to shrink. This doesn't make them bad people, it makes them human, and it reminds us of an important truth. Closeness is powerful. Who you eat with, laugh with, struggle with, and share your which shapes your future far more than you think. I once heard a simple example. If you put a healthy fruit next to a rotten one, the rotten one doesn't become fresh. The fresh one slowly starts decaying. Energy works that way. That's why growth sometimes feels lonely. Because when you decide to rise, not everyone around you can come with you. And this is where people struggle emotionally. We confuse distance with arrogance. We think protecting our peace means hurting others. We fear being misunderstood, but boundaries are not walls. They are doors with conscious locks. You don't need to announce them. You don't need to justify them. You simply need to honor them. Some relationships are meant for a season. Some conversations are meant to end. Some connections are meant to transform. And holding on to them out of guilt only delays your growth. There is a difference between being kind and being constantly available. There is a difference between being understanding and being self-neglecting. When you surround yourself with people who value growth, something changes inside you effortlessly. Discipline becomes easier. Positivity feels natural. Dreams feel possible. This is why ancient wisdom always emphasized satsang. Not because people were antisocial, but because they understood influence. Your environment trains your nervous system. If your environment is chaotic, your mind stays alert. If your environment is calm, your mind learns to rest. This also applies to digital compa. What you watch, what you scroll, what voices you allow into your mind eats content, the way your body eats food, and junk consumption leads to emotional indigestion. Once you start choosing your company consciously, you begin to notice something else. Your self-respect grows. You stop over-explaining. You stop tolerating disrespect disguised as humor. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that no longer align with who you are becoming. And this is powerful. Because when your inner world is supported by the right environment, something else naturally awakens. The willingness to discipline yourself, not because someone forces you, but because you finally believe your life is worth the effort. And that is where the next lesson begins. Because discipline is not about control, it is about care. And once you understand this, your entire relationship with effort, consistency, and self-growth changes forever. If you think this point was important, don't miss what comes next. Because the next lesson is where potential turns into power. When your environment begins to support your growth, you slowly realize something profound. Progress no longer feels like a struggle forced from the outside. It starts to feel like a quiet promise you make to yourself every day. This is where discipline enters, and sadly, this is where most people misunderstand it. We think discipline is harsh. We think discipline means forcing ourselves to do things we don't like. We think discipline is something rigid, joyless, and exhausting. But true discipline is none of the above. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is protection. It is the act of telling yourself, I care about you too much to let you waste your potential. Every time you choose to wake up instead of snoozing, you are not being cruel to yourself. You are being honest with your future. Every time you show up on a difficult day, you are not being strict. You are being loyal to your dreams. Most people wait for motivation. But motivation is emotional. It depends on mood. Discipline is spiritual. It depends on values. You don't brush your teeth only when you feel motivated. You do it because you respect yourself. Discipline works the same way. The beautiful thing is discipline simplifies life. Indiscipline complicates it. When you delay work, anxiety increases. When you avoid responsibility, stress grows. When you neglect health, pain accumulates. But when you act with discipline, the mind relaxes because it knows you can be trusted. And self-trust is a powerful thing. Many people say, I lack confidence. But often what they lack is consistency. Confidence is built every time you keep a promise to yourself. And discipline is the bridge between intention and identity. It doesn't require dramatic effort. It requires daily sincerity. Even 5 minutes done consistently beats 2 hours done occasionally. Now here is something very important. Discipline becomes joyful only when it is rooted in self-love, not self-criticism. If you discipline yourself because you hate who you are, it will break you. If you discipline yourself because you believe in who you can become, it will build you. That's why comparison kills discipline. You are not here to match someone else's journey. You are here to honor your own. Once discipline becomes part of your life, you stop depending on external pressure. You don't need reminders. You don't need threats. You don't need validation. You move forward quietly, and then something subtle but beautiful happens. Gratitude starts growing naturally, because when you live with discipline, you begin to see how much you already have, how much life is already supporting you. And this is where the next truth unfolds. Because without gratitude, even discipline feels dry. But with gratitude, effort feels meaningful. So let us move forward. Because the next lesson doesn't just change how you see life, it changes how life responds to you. When discipline becomes a natural rhythm in your life, your eyes begin to open to something that was always there, yet rarely noticed. You start seeing support instead of scarcity. You start seeing opportunity instead of lack. And quietly, without force, gratitude begins to take root. Most people misunderstand gratitude. They think gratitude means being satisfied with less or lowering ambition. But gratitude is not about settling. Gratitude is about seeing clearly. A grateful heart is not a weak heart. It is a wise heart. When you live without gratitude, no achievement feels enough. You reach one milestone and immediately your mind shifts to the next. You upgrade one desire and 10 more appear. Life becomes a constant chase with no arrival. But gratitude changes the texture of living. It teaches you how to arrive. Right here, right now. I've seen people who are healthy but constantly complain. And I've seen people fighting illness who still smile with grace. What creates that difference? Not circumstances. Perspective. Gratitude trains your mind to acknowledge what is working instead of obsessing over what is missing. And this doesn't mean you ignore problems. It means you stop allowing problems to blind you. When gratitude enters your life, comparison slowly loses its grip. You stop measuring your journey against someone else's timeline. You realize that everyone is carrying invisible battles and everyone is moving at their own pace. Comparison makes you anxious. Gratitude makes you grounded. And here's something powerful. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a discipline. It is a conscious practice of noticing your breath, noticing the people who care, noticing the strength that carried you through difficult days. When you practice gratitude, life begins to feel like a gift rather than a burden. And life responds beautifully to gratitude. Not because gratitude magically changes circumstances, but because it changes your capacity to receive. A complaining heart is closed, a grateful heart is open, and when the heart opens, growth flows in. Gratitude also humbles the ego. You realize you didn't reach where you are alone. There were teachers, parents, strangers, opportunities, moments of grace, many things you didn't plan but benefited from. This humility makes you softer without making you weaker. But here is the deeper truth. Gratitude naturally leads to responsibility. Because when you recognize how much you have received, you feel inspired to give back. You stop living only for yourself. And this is where many people get stuck. They want blessings, but they resist responsibility. They want growth, but they avoid accountability. So now we move to the next lesson, one that separates those who feel powerful for a moment from those who become powerful for a lifetime. Because this next truth is uncomfortable, but it is the doorway to true freedom. If you truly want your life to shift, stay with me. The heart of transformation is coming next. When gratitude deepens, something inside you matures. You stop seeing life as something that owes you and you begin seeing it as something that has entrusted you. And that shift from entitlement to responsibility changes the direction of your entire life. Most people don't realize how much energy they lose through blame. Blame feels light in the moment. Responsibility feels heavy at first. But blame keeps you stuck in the past, while responsibility moves you forward. We often say, if only they had treated me better, if only the situation was different, if only I had more support. These thoughts may feel justified, but they silently give away your power. The moment you blame, you say, my happiness depends on something outside me. Responsibility says, I may not control what happened, but I choose how I respond. And that choice is freedom. Taking responsibility does not mean everything is your fault. Life is unfair at times. People disappoint. Circumstances can be cruel. Acknowledging that is honesty, but staying stuck there is optional. I've seen people go through painful experiences and allow them to define their entire identity. And I've seen people go through the same pain and allow it to refine them. The difference is not strength. The difference is ownership. Responsibility brings clarity. Blame brings confusion. When you take responsibility, you stop asking, why did this happen to me? You start asking, what is life trying to teach me through this? And lessons learned with awareness become wisdom. Responsibility also builds inner leadership. You stop waiting for rescue. You stop expecting others to fix your life. You stop postponing growth. You begin showing up. And when you show up consistently, confidence grows quietly. This is why some people look calm even in chaos. They have accepted that life will not always be comfortable, but they will always be conscious. Responsibility also deepens compassion. Once you stop blaming, you stop judging. You realize everyone is acting from their level of awareness. That understanding softens the heart. But here is the part that most people miss. Responsibility without purpose can feel heavy. You can be disciplined, you can be grateful, you can be responsible, yet still feel empty. Because human beings are not fulfilled by survival alone. We are fulfilled by meaning. And that leads us to the final truth, the one that gives direction to everything else. This is not about motivation anymore, this is about destiny. So stay with me, because the last lesson is not something you add to life, it is something you align your life with. And when that alignment happens, even ordinary days begin to feel sacred. When you finally take responsibility for your life, a quiet question begins to surface inside you. It doesn't shout, it doesn't rush, it simply asks, why am I really here? Not what job you will do, not how much you will earn, not what people will think of you, but why you wake up every morning. Most people live chasing pleasure, comfort, approval, entertainment, applause. And there is nothing wrong with pleasure. Pleasure is part of life. But pleasure was never meant to be the driver of life. Because pleasure excites you for moments. Purpose fulfills you for a lifetime. You can see this everywhere. People who live only for pleasure feel restless even after achieving their goals. They celebrate, they post, they smile, and then very quickly, emptiness returns. Not because they failed, but because success without meaning feels hollow. Purpose is what gives weight to your efforts. When you know why you are doing something, discipline feels lighter, sacrifice feels meaningful, even pain feels bearable. A mother doesn't wake up at night for a crying child because it's pleasurable. She does it because there is purpose. Love gives strength that comfort never can. Purpose works the same way. Purpose does not always come as a dramatic revelation. For most people, it unfolds quietly, through service, contribution, growth, and alignment with values. Purpose asks a simple question every day: is the way I'm living today aligned with who I want to become? When your actions align with purpose, something magical happens. You stop needing constant validation. You stop chasing attention. You stop comparing paths. You walk your road with calm confidence. Purpose also brings resilience. When life tests you, and it will, purpose gives you a reason to stand again. Without purpose, suffering feels pointless. With purpose, suffering becomes transformative. This is why two people can face the same hardship and respond so differently. One collapses, the other evolves. Purpose does not remove problems. It gives problems meaning. And here is a very important truth. Purpose is not always about doing something big. Sometimes the purpose is about doing something small with great sincerity, showing up honestly, helping quietly, living consciously, uplifting others through your presence. Purpose is not about being famous, it is about being faithful to your values, to your growth, to your responsibility. When you live with purpose, gratitude deepens. Responsibility feels natural, discipline feels aligned, and trust in life strengthens. Everything comes together. You realize that life was never asking you to be perfect. It was asking you to be present, not to have everything figured out, but to walk sincerely. And this is the final realization that changes everything. Life's quality is not determined by how much you accumulate. It is determined by how much awareness, love, and meaning you bring into each moment. When you live with purpose, when ordinary days feel sacred, even small actions feel significant. Even challenges feel purposeful. So don't wait for life to slow down. Don't wait for fear to disappear. Don't wait for confidence to magically arrive. Begin where you are. Live consciously. Act responsibly. Stay grateful. Walk with purpose. Because true success is not reaching the top. It is living in alignment with your soul. And when you do that, life doesn't just change around you, it changes within you. And now, let me leave you with a truth that ties everything together. Quietly, gently, but powerfully, life is not a race to arrive somewhere. It is a journey to become someone. You don't need to have everything figured out today. You don't need to be fearless. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be honest with your effort and conscious with your choices, when you stop trying to control everything, peace enters. When you work on your inner world, clarity grows. When you choose your company wisely, strength multiplies. When you live with discipline, self-respect deepens. When you practice gratitude, life feels abundant. When you take responsibility, freedom appears. And when you live with purpose, even ordinary moments feel meaningful. This is not about changing your life overnight. This is about changing the direction of your life, one sincere step at a time. Remember this always. Happiness is not about having everything you want. It is about wanting wisely, living consciously, and being grat. Feel deeply, start today. Not when everything is perfect, but exactly as you are. Because when you walk with awareness, sincerity, and purpose, life doesn't just reward you with success, it blesses you with peace. Let me leave you with a truth that has carried seekers, strugglers, and sincere souls through every generation. Life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be trusted. You are not here by accident. Your struggles are not random, and your efforts are never wasted. When you do your duty sincerely and leave the results in higher hands, peace naturally follows. When you walk with faith instead of fear, strength rises within you. And when you live with awareness, gratitude, and purpose, life begins to guide you from within. Remember this always. When you put God first, fear automatically takes the last place. When your intentions are pure, the universe quietly aligns. And when your heart is sincere, no effort ever goes unseen. So don't wait for the world to change. Change your awareness, change your actions, and trust the journey. Walk forward with faith, live responsibly, serve sincerely, and leave the rest to the divine. Because true success is not about how much you achieve, it is about how deeply you trust, how honestly you live, and how lovingly you serve. Start today, live consciously, and let life unfold.